The NBA fashion culture has continued to fascinate the fans, media, and fellow athletes. Appearance management of these players run high, some players going as far as to planning the outfits months in advance, others the night before. Malik Monk is among the most fashionable of all NBA players. He was voted as the most fashionable player for the 2023-2024 season.
Of course, I have to bring up your style. Congratulations are also in order. You won GQ's most stylish NBA player. Congrats.
Thank you, Kings fans, for the votes.
His sense of style is bold and diverse. Similar to his bold and flashy fashion, he has a bold, flashy sense of playing style on the court.
He brought the house down! Look at this Jazz crowd! They don't believe it!
But he hasn't always been able to creatively use his fashion to express himself. In order to understand how the individual player's fashion got to the point it is today, we need to look into the complicated history of fashion culture in the NBA. Let's rewind to November 19th, 2004.
Fight broke out between the Pacer team and the fans in the stands.
Ben Wallace fouled Ron Artest. There were several minutes of the players attacking one another, with the coaches and refs trying to put a stop to it all.
Pacer bench to go. Now Artest has jumped over the scorer's table and is trying to get down to the bench. Artest is in the stands. You have these ridiculous fans trying to go at the players and now throwing. Somebody could really get hurt.
The whole scene was a violent mess, and the whole thing was televised. So how does this relate to NBA fashion?
The night had a lasting effect. It ignited everything.
The NBA commissioner, David Stern, created the first ever major sports league dress code. He believed that the league's appearance perception needed to change. This dress code banned players from wearing specific clothing and accessories like baggy clothing and chains. Stern was afraid of the perception it was receiving from the fans. Thus, he announced the business casual attire dress code. The players were forced to transform their realities. Now, it is important to note that the malice at the palace was not the sole reason for creating this dress code. Over the years, the commissioner, along with fellow coaches of the NBA, have noticed the shift in fashion culture. Stern made a comment that the NBA fashion was getting too hip-hop. Phil Jackson, the Chicago Bulls coach, expressed that he thought the players were dressing like they were in prison. They all dressed very gangster and thug-like. Fans and media also stereotyped the players into being thugs because of the way that they dress and the kind of music they listen to. In other words, fans and media were using mental shortcuts and selection of cues in order to make sense of who the players were and classify them into a specific societal group. Let's dive deeper into this process. The first step of appearance perception is using interpretive inference. This is where the perceiver interprets the selected appearance cues. The second step is extended inference. This is where the perceiver is making those additional cognitive leaps. Perceivers are adding on other personal traits to the traits they initially assigned to those they were perceiving. They are assuming that certain traits are linked to others. The last step to this is the anticipatory set. This involves a response towards the person based on the conclusion of traits they decided on during this process. Now, this response can either be explicit or implicit.
Oh my God! For James
Players like Allen Iverson did not like this dress code set in place. Allen Iverson was an influential force in bringing hip-hop culture to the NBA. He adorned himself with tattoos and expensive jewelry. He often accessorized with flat-brimmed hats and do-rags.
So you're credited, obviously, as you should be, as someone who bridged the gap between culture and sports. From like what we touched on earlier, where you dressed, your tattoos, your braids, your do-rags. And really, because I think they started the NBA dress code because of you.
I know it.
Yeah, right.
Iverson explained that he dressed the way he did because that's how he dressed growing up in the town he lived in. He had a strong sense of self-concept. This new dress code forced Iverson to transform his reality and not for the good.
You can put a suit or a shirt and tie on a bad person, you're still going to be a bad person. So I just think it's a bad idea.
Were there any players that did not mind the new dress code and conformed to this new set of rules? The simple answer to that question was yes. LeBron James mentioned how he did not mind this new dress code.
You feel lazy, you don't feel like putting some clothes on, but it's a job and, we should look, like we're going to work.
He embraced this new dress code and started to have fun with it. He started partnering with luxury brands, which had not been done before. He wanted to look and feel confident before he hit the court. So he turned to fashion. Dwayne Wade also ran with this new dress code. He even went as far as to credit David Stern for his fashion sense. He stated that it became a competition amongst the guys, and now you really got into it more, and you started to really understand the clothes you put on your body.
Wade pushes the fashion envelope, playing with colors and trends.
The 2005 dress code pushed the players to really look introspectively into who they really were outside of basketball. These players who are entering the NBA are still so young and trying to discover who they are, who they want to be on and off the court. Self-expression is needed, therefore they are turning to fashion for that outlet. These players are not only trying to build the resume on the court, but also off the court. They're trying to make a name for themselves. It all came down to how they would be individually evaluated by the fans and media, down to their character, sociability, and mood. I wanted to turn to two particular individuals to gain an understanding of what they think of tunnel fashion. The first person I turned to was my brother Noah. He is very knowledgeable about sports and the basketball culture in particular. I asked Noah a set of questions to see what he had to say about fashion in the basketball industry. To briefly summarize, Noah highly appreciates the sense of style each player has. He notices how some players take more care and consideration in the pre-game outfits. He mentioned how he believes the player's sense of style reflects on how they play in the game. He gave an example of Malik Monk having an outspoken sense of style that reflects how he plays on the court. Domantas Sabonis, on the other hand, has more of a conservative approach to fashion and isn't flashy on the court. You have players that look up to the star players, leading them to wanting to up their own fashion game. It's an endless competitive cycle. I also wanted to interview someone who is not familiar with basketball culture and see how he perceives and interprets them. I asked several questions to Anthony, my sister's boyfriend. Anthony mentioned how he thought that star players likely show up in expensive tracksuits of some kind. Being that these players have a lot of money, they are more likely to spend more on outside things like clothes and fashion. This is a special privilege that these players have. He said that if he saw a player dressing up before the game, that must mean that they are good. Tunnel fashion, also known as the concrete runway, has really been made possible because of social media. We have official NBA Instagram pages that follow the players and what they are wearing. These players are seen as fashion icons. The fashion community has really begun to embrace the NBA community and respect and appreciate what they're bringing to the table. And of course, come the critics on the bold senses of style worn by the athletes.
Yes, sir. He went all out on that. There's a lot going on there.
He went all out what? All out of his damn mind?
Body image is important. The process of appearance perception is heavily considered during the stages of social cognition. Players are constructing their own identities. Today, the shared culture of tunnel fashion has group and social acceptance. There's a kind of superego that has been cultivated over the years amongst the players. People make basic assumptions of the people they see to try and make sense of the type of person they might be, and they act accordingly. Meanings are assigned to individuals, good or bad. Individuals have the power to manage their appearances and change their realities, and those who interpret these individuals use symbols, shortcuts, and social cues to try and gauge and organize subconsciously who they are observing. How would I make change in the tunnel fashion? I wouldn't change anything about the players' fashion. I think it is great what they are doing. They are using their platform exposure to grab our attention, sending all kinds of messages. They're experimenting on a personal and societal level. What I would change, however, is how people perceive the players. Now, I understand we can't control what people think and how they perceive others. People have their own social experiences and interactions that lead them to the conclusions that they do. There's a saying that says the first thought that comes to your mind when interacting or talking to people is often what society trained or conditioned you to think. The way you react to that first initial thought says a lot about who you are as a person. It defines who you are. What if you opened your mind and decided not to judge a book by its cover? Like what Allen Iverson said,
"Tell nobody how to dress, man. Leave people alone, man. Let people dress and be who they are.
Express themselves how they want."
Watch out, oh, watch out, oh, watch out, yeah. That's my shot, shot, I smash shot.